My parents were both business owners. My mum was an award-winning hairdresser. Dad was a craftsman. He was always just very good with his hands. We never had any money. I would sleep on the single mattress that's on this double frame, and he would sleep on the floor next to me. I got into financial advice to help people like my parents. Revenue is not profit. And for so many business owners, they pursue revenue and it's a vanity metric.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Ready to jump straight in?
Of course.
Okay. We're going to play a game.
Okay.
Pick one.
We've got to pick the middle. All right. Topic 3. Do I need to turn it over? Is there anything on this?
Nope,
No,
that's it.
three,
Topic
that's it.
number 3. Okay. Our topic for today is, why isn't revenue the king? Right? So that's what we're going to talk about. But first, let's tell my audience, why should they listen to you? What's your experience in regards to revenue and not being king? And not just your experience, but what are the fundamental beliefs that you hold that underpin what you're going to say?
Okay, let's go back to the beginning.
Yep.
So I'm Jackson Milan. I'm also known as the Wealth Mentor. I was born in Wollongong and my parents were both business owners. Mum was a hairdresser, Dad was a tradie, and they work incredibly hard.
Yep.
I remember as a kid seeing photo albums of me being in a pram at my mum's shop, even going on site during school holidays with my dad. Like, some of my fondest memories were being in and around their businesses. And they were very, very good at what they did. My mum was an award-winning hairdresser. Dad was a craftsman. He was always just very good with his hands. There was nothing that he couldn't fix. And even though they were very good at what they did, we never had any money. And I still remember as a kid, my parents separated when I was quite young, but as a kid living with my dad, he made a double bed out of wood, scrap wood, and there was a single mattress that he found on council cleanup, and I would sleep on the single mattress that's on this double frame, and he would sleep on the floor next to me. So
Because mum wasn't there.
Mum wasn't there, but there was no mattress for him to go on, so he was happy to put me on the mattress and he'd sleep on the floor. And interestingly, as a kid, like when I look back, I never felt poor. Like I never felt like we went without anything. I never felt embarrassed or judged as a result of not having anything. My parents always were prepared to sacrifice to give me opportunities, but it was always like hard-won battles. So
Can you give me an example of a hard-won battle?
I remember actually as a kid when I went to high school, my parents wanted me to go to a Catholic school, so it was a semi-private school, which was obviously thousands of dollars a year to send me there. And I remember as a kid, my dad actually put me on the waiting list when I was about 4 years old. I still remember the day that he took me to this school, which is called Holy Spirit. And he goes, I want to sign up my son. Okay, how old is your son? Oh, my son's here, he's 4. And they're like, okay, cool, like we'll see you in 2001, right? He hasn't even started primary school yet. But we fast forward and like they managed to scrimp and save and pay for the fees. But as you know, like semi-private schools have other extracurriculars and camps and things. And I still remember being part of those families who couldn't afford it, that would have to go and meet and go on payment plans. And my parents never wanted to say no.
No.
So they would always find a way. And that finding a way was always working overtime or doing other side jobs or just hustling for extra cash to make ends meet. So I had this soft spot from a kid, like seeing them sacrifice and compromise, and also for me feeling guilty because obviously they were wanting to provide me with opportunities, that I wanted to crack this code for business owners. So I started becoming a financial advisor when I left school. I joined a place called the Financial Advice Centre, and it looked like a scene out of The Wolf of Wall Street. Like it was working for a Big 4 bank, selling commission-based products to bank customers in the middle of the GFC. And there was hundreds of sales reps on this floor. Like there was this like toxic smell in the air of just people who were preying on vulnerable
Desperation?
folks. Yeah, desperate people like my parents.
Yeah.
I hated it. And I almost quit because I'm like, I got into financial advice to help people like my parents, and all of these people are here taking advantage of people like my parents. And in this kind of fleeting thought when I was about to quit, I'm like, well, okay, if this is what this industry is, who's going to fix it? And I kind of took it upon myself.
How old were you then?
19.
Wow.
And I very quickly got fired from that place. I found myself a better mentor. I worked in a number of financial advice departments in the banks. And I just was taking stock of all of the things that were wrong with the industry. And what I realized is that the wealth and financial advice industry only cares about helping wealthy people get wealthier. So financial advice was designed for people who had already become independently wealthy, had amassed a certain amount of wealth, and that financial advisors were actually wealth managers. That they invest the money and they try and maximize the returns. And there was actually no framework to help people who had no money. They were just ignored. So I built my own philosophy that was called the values-based advice philosophy. That was designed wholly and solely around helping people make their foundational wealth and to actually have a strategy to allow them to create financial freedom and get to a point where there was actually wealth to manage.
Okay.
And I specialized in working with business owners because I realized that for business owners, one of the biggest issues is that revenue is not profit. And for so many business owners, they pursue revenue and it's a vanity metric.
So our topic for today is good for you?
It certainly is.
All right, I want to just take you back a step or two. And you said value-based advice. What values?
It kind of has a double meaning for me. First and foremost, it was giving advice that you are giving from a position of value, like your own personal values. It's like my personal values are helping people who don't know better. We're not taught this stuff. So I think the foundational role of a financial advisor should be education. So that was the kind of the first lens. And the second lens is that a financial advisor should not take on a client unless they wholeheartedly believe that they can put that client in a better situation after the investment of working with them. And unfortunately, like in a lot of the advice practices that I observed and I worked in, that they almost wipe their hands of it. They're like, my fees are my fees. I can't promise you returns. And sure, we can't promise returns, but there needs to be skin in the game for producing a return on investment. And even for years.
Accountability?
Accountability, yeah, right. And if I can't wholeheartedly agree that I can put a client in a better situation, I shouldn't invite them to become a client in the first place.
So that seems to me that the values we're talking about here are ethics.
Yes.
And education.
Yes, certainly.
What about the values to do with wealth? What shows wealth or lack of wealth?
Yeah. So the biggest challenge that I also see around people seeking financial advice and also the financial advice industry as a whole is that there's too much focus on the money itself. The money doesn't matter, right? Like the financial freedom is upstream from lifestyle freedom. So first and foremost, we need to define what is the lifestyle freedom that we're trying to achieve so that we can actually reverse engineer that into the financial means required to support that lifestyle. And for so many people, they actually haven't taken the time to even ask that question of themselves. Like, what is it that I want?
Yeah.
And what we end up falling into is these arbitrary financial freedom figures. Like the amount of times that I've had clients come to me and say, Jackson, I need 100 grand a year in passive income. And I go, how'd you come up with that? They go, I don't know. That's what
and they don't even know what it really means.
They have no idea what it means. So my whole philosophy was about defining their goals, dreams and aspirations, reversing those goals, dreams and aspirations backwards, and then linking that to a number that is linked to the goals that intrinsically drives them.
Okay, and when did that kind of crystallise?
I had a number of experiences, like more than I can count over the years, whereby in the early days before I developed this full model, that every advisor has goals-based conversations with their clients. Like I still remember my last boss used to ask the cringiest question. He'd ask his clients in the first meeting, tell me what money means to you.
What sort of answers would he get?
Exactly. Just arbitrary, superficial answers that don't advance the conversation.
Yeah.
Like he would get something fluffy and it's not actionable.
No.
So, and he would fluff on it because he felt awkward asking the question. It was obvious that somebody told him he should ask the question and he was just doing it, right? So I'm like, I don't want to ask my clients stupid questions. I want to ask them challenging questions. So I'd actually ask them 3 questions. I would ask them, what is fundamentally important to you? So what are your non-negotiable needs? And the typical things are like, I want to put food on the table. I want to be able to pay my bills on time and in full. I want to send my kids to a decent school. I want to have a roof over my head, right? I want to have enough money in the bank so I've got safety and security. Oh, cool, great.
So the bottom layer of
Bottom layer, bang on, bottom layer of Maslow's.
Yep.
The second question is, assuming your fundamental needs are met, what then becomes your goals, your dreams, and your aspirations? And the typical ones are, okay, where do you want to live? What's that house going to cost you? By when do you want to have it paid off? Second, what kind of holidays and experiences do you want to have? How often? What's the annual budget? Are there any other big major milestones?
Do people know these things?
When prompted and you give them enough space,
Yeah.
they tend to fill that space. The thing is that nobody's asked the pointed questions and shut up for long enough to allow them to answer. Right? So then there's like kids' education beyond the baseline, right? So private school, funding university, that kind of stuff. And then there's usually giving back. And then, of course, financial freedom, like having enough passive income to be able to retire and live your life the way that you want. So the idea is we go through that and we quantify all of those things. And then the third question is, for each of those goals, dreams, and aspirations, what is the significance of that goal, dream, or aspiration to you? So, hey, if you want to live in Cairns and spend $1 million on a house and have it paid off in 5 years, why is that important? Why is that significant? And that was the most important question. Because if they could tell me, like, hey, that would make me feel like I've made it, it'd give me a deep sense of satisfaction, it would be a pressure off my shoulders, then that's something that's really significant. But if they go, oh, I don't know.
Like calibration.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
And if they go, I don't know, like it'd be nice, then it's superficial and it's probably not important.
It's probably not even theirs.
Bang on.
Yeah.
And it's from that basis of that kind of goals conversation that a financial plan can be developed, because it's based on what they truly want.
So the question that I asked you was when? When did you crystallise this?
Yeah, so I developed that system when I was in my mid-20s.
Yeah, that time.
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So post-GFC, market was doing really well. So yeah, like
Yep, okay.
we had a lot of opportunities. It just came from that fact that just people didn't know what they wanted. And what was interesting, Tash, is when people don't know what they want and they're not invested in it, they don't have significance linked to it, I can create the best plan in the world, but they're never going to follow it
No,
because it's not theirs.
no. So when you were doing this, were you working for yourself or someone else?
It's my own business.
Your own business.
Yeah.
So when did you start your own business first?
So that particular business, I started, so I'll give you the backstory.
Okay, all right.
So my last boss that I work with, I was working in this practice and I was the 2IC in this practice, and I'd come in to try and help this guy continue to grow and scale his business. He was had quite a big business, a multi-7-figure business that he'd been building for like 25 plus years. And it was a legacy business because he'd been around for so long, and it was just a lot of old school clients. And so my strategy was, look, let's consolidate the client base. Let's highlight the A and B level clients, our top level clients. Let's transition them all to a fee-for-service model, because the legacy thing was a lot of commissions.
Yes.
And let's sell off all of the old clients
Yeah.
to somebody else who wants to run that kind of business. And it was so lucky because when we just implemented that strategy, there was all of these legislative changes that meant the part of the business that he sold off was almost not valuable. So unfortunate to the person who bought it, but it is what it is.
But that's, yeah.
So the whole idea I was doing this was the plan for me to get equity in this business.
Yeah.
And he kept moving the milestones. And for one reason or another. So I started getting kind of a little bit antsy about just like, why are my loyalties here? So I started a consulting business on the side called Innovate Now Consulting. And it wasn't in competing with anything that he was doing. And he found out about it.
And you didn't like it?
He brought me into his office and he said, Jackson, I found out about your Innovate Now Consulting business. You've got two options. You either go into your office now and write up a resignation letter and you finish up today. Or if you don't, I have very expensive lawyers who will sue your pants off and you will have a terrible time. And if I found out that you've taken any of my clients, there's going to be trouble.
But that wasn't.
It wasn't my thing. I said, I haven't touched your clients. This has nothing to do with your business, but he took it personally. So I went and wrote my resignation letter and I handed it to him. And I'm like, all right, what am I going to do? Literally the next day, I got a LinkedIn message from somebody that was a complete stranger who said, Jackson, we're looking for a gun financial advisor. We've got a mortgage business and our financial advice arm is terrible.
Yep.
We want you to somebody to come in and drive the business forwards in exchange for equity. So it allowed me to go into Innovate Now Consulting full time and be working for a sweat equity stake in this business. And it was just rocket fuel for me.
Yeah.
Like I was so angry at my old boss because I felt like I'd been hard done by.
Well, you were promised equity that you didn't get.
Yeah.
And he got the work that you promised.
Yeah, definitely. But interestingly, I realised that was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I look back and I'm like, if that situation didn't happen, how long would it have taken me to go full time in my business and back myself?
Yeah.
Because as soon as I was full time for myself, it was like a rocket
Everything's
fuel.
different.
Everything's different.
Everything's different, yeah.
And like, I remember it took him 25 years to build a 7-figure business, and I did it in 18 months.
Yeah.
And I'm just like it was almost in spite of him. And I remember I used to imagine, like when I'd have a bank statement or my financials, and I would send it to him and say, yeah, thanks for everything. Thanks for all the fish. Right? I never did. But that was the kind of thing in my head. And that was the rocket fuel that pushed me to build all of these models and scale this wildly successful business.
Plus, you got to experiment.
Yes.
And gain some experience on his business, which is always valuable.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hugely valuable. Yeah.
Good. Okay. All right. So 2013, things changed. You're running. By 2016, you've got a very vibrant financial advice business. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you ever hit that point of, I'm making 7 figures, but?
There was definitely a but. So, a bit more context. When I got fired, I was multi-6 figures in bad debt as a result of my dad having stomach cancer and not being off work. So I was paying the family mortgage, covering all of the bills. And I also had a men's fashion label prior that was a cash-eating monster.
With mushrooms?
There was no mushrooms. Maybe I would have been more successful if there was mushroom shirts involved.
Probably not then, but anyway.
No, probably not. It was before my time. So I'd racked up all of this debt, and I was in a really bad position. So when I decided to go all in on Innovate Now Consulting, I actually donated all of my stock to charity. I'm like, I need to wipe this slate clean.
Your clothing business.
Clothing business. And I'm going to go all in on this, and I'm going to focus on paying off the debt.
Yep.
So it took me about 18 months, and all of the debt was cleared. I had $1 million plus business, and I'd even won Advisor of the Year in this network that I was in. I was the young gun that come in and just crushed it. But it was a franchise. And so we'd gone from being one of the worst businesses in the network to being number one, and we actually had 2 franchises. We were number 1 and number 2 in the country.
Right.
And I had nowhere else to go. There was nowhere else to grow. Like, I'd already achieved everything.
With that client.
With that franchise. So I'm like, okay, well, I can continue to scale this. Like, I'm already number 1, but there's levels to this as long as I've got support of the franchise, the head of the franchise. And we butted heads. Like, he was threatened by me. And I had all the best intentions, because I'm like, okay, well, I've built this values-based advice system. I've proven to you it works. Let me roll it out across the whole country. And let's actually go and do something real and help a lot of people, and we can make a lot of money in the process. His ego wouldn't allow it.
No. Okay.
So we had a big run-in, and I decided to sell that business. And that's when I started Aureus Financial with my business partner at the time, Sam, and that was in 2017.
Okay. So you sold the equity that you had earned.
Correct.
And you then used that as starting capital for your new business with Sam.
Yes.
Did you say? Okay. Yeah. So let's ask the really core question here, which is, what's the difference between the perspective you were taking on people's wealth building and their business versus what the old system was? What's the core differences? I understand what you're saying about values-based advice.
Yes.
And I understand that the financial advice network came from the old commission network and the sell the product.
Yes.
I get that. But somebody who sits there and says, I'm going to help you get wealthy, I'm going to help you make income, blah, blah, blah. What's the core difference between the old way and your way?
Yeah, great question. So the old way was based on funds under management. And typically it was about 1% of funds under management. So when you do the math on that, unless a client's got $1 million in investable assets that you're managing, you're not really making a huge amount of money
yourself
from their portfolio, right? Because if you're charging 1%, that's $10,000 in fees, right? Yeah. If the client portfolio is only 200 grand, it's $2,000, right? So really, for an advisor under that model, their minimum threshold for clients is about $500,000 of investment assets.
Yeah.
Coupled with that, the model of wealth management is just about the portfolio construction. And it also means you're only meeting that client once a year.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, hey, Tash, give me $1 million. I'm going to build this portfolio for you. We're going to implement it. I'll send you statements throughout the year of how it's going, and then we'll meet in 12 months' time and talk about if we need to make any changes.
And you want 10 grand for that?
Correct.
Or 100 grand?
Right. But and in context, it's like, well, okay, I'm happy to pay you 10 grand because if you're making me 100 in returns, then it justifies it, right?
Yeah.
So the issue with
It's rather inactive.
it is. The industry was built on this inactivity,
Yeah.
whereby advisors were riding on the coattails of the market because the market was going to perform anyway.
Yeah.
They would get a clip, they'd have this low touch client, and then they built this portfolio of 200, 300, 400 clients and have a sizable portfolio. So
Just for my own understanding, all of these funds under management were in the stock market?
yeah, or managed funds, and typically managed funds, right? So this was the kind of the fable of the industry where advisors were essentially selling their clients the potential of creating market alpha, outperformance, of saying, hey, Tash, the index does 8%.
We're going to do 10.
I'm going to do 10,
Yeah.
right? And you're going to pay me 1%, meaning you're still 1% better off than the market. And then they say, and then one year you might get 7 when the market does 8. Oh, we had a bad year. This is what I'm going to do. It was just a big story. It was a
But that was also just the norm.
Correct. It was the
So
norm.
it was just accepted.
Correct.
Were the clients happy then?
Clients didn't know any different because it was
Yeah.
the model. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There was no other way. So what I did different in my values-based advice model, it was fee for service, and it was based on essentially business consulting framework, right? Because as a business consultant, you go into a business and there's this very specific problem. You charge a fee, a retainer, a package to say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Business Owner, I'm going to charge you 30 grand and I'm going to work with you to do ABC. And as a result of that, you should get $120,000 result, right?
So this seems to me to be two totally different businesses. One is selling commodities and the improvement of.
Correct.
The other one is coaching the business.
Exactly. So I took those principles and I brought that into personal wealth.
Did coaching the business not exist before then?
It did, but there was no coaching in wealth. And financial advisors were never business coaches. They just...
So they were totally separate.
fundamentally different, right? Even if you were a business owner going to a financial advisor, they would say, Tash, let me know once you've got the profit in your personal bank account, and then I'll tell you how to invest it. There was no conversation about how to extract more wealth out of the business.
Were you aware of what business coaches,
Yeah.
term is very fluffy,
It
isn't
is.
it? The business consultants were doing at that time?
Yeah, and that's what intrigued me because I saw the opportunity because that was a skill set that I needed to learn. But I'm like, okay, on the other side of the equation, I used to call it above the line and below the line. So above the line is the business stuff and below the line is the personal wealth stuff. So I'm like, okay, I'm a trained and licensed financial advisor. So I'm trained in the below the line stuff. But hey, there's these business owners who are making these decisions that have implications on the below the line stuff, but I'm not talking to them about it.
Yeah.
And then vice versa, there's business coaches who are talking about the above the line stuff, but they're not licensed to talk about the below the line stuff. So how do I create a value proposition that I'm experienced to talk about both?
Both. Yeah, combination.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that was the basis of my whole philosophy. Because what that allowed me to do is to say, okay, you're not wealthy now. Let's talk about your business. What does your business need to do to build enough profit to allow you to earn the money that you need to earn
invest.
to then invest?
To begin wealth, yeah.
And because what these people were lacking is clarity. Like when we think about, I want a financial plan, well, I need a path to get from A, where I am right now, to Z. Who's going to help me
And they weren't
map
using
that
their
out?
businesses.
Nothing. So really interestingly, before I left that franchise group, I almost come to fisticuffs with the head of compliance over this. Because one of my things in my statement of advice documents was setting an income target for clients. Because prior to that, the standard was you can only work with the income that the client is earning. But when is the income the client earning going to be sufficient to achieve their goals, right?
Wow, what a bizarre division.
100%. So what I would say is I'm like, hey, Tash, like this is your baseline of where you're at right now. Let's say you're earning 100 grand a year. This is where it's going to get you. But you need to get to here.
Yeah.
You need to go to 150 grand a year and invest it like this if you want to achieve
And
your
you
goal.
need help to do that.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the head of compliance goes, you can't set an income target. And I go, but I'm a financial advisor. I'm advising them what financial levers they need to pull to achieve their goals. show me in the Corporations Act or the legislation where it's illegal to do that.
Was there anywhere?
No.
It was just something that wasn't bothered.
It was a sacred cow that nobody had brought up. Like, it was just, there was so much status quo that existed in the industry, and I was in so much of an uncharted territory that I fundamentally looked at advice differently to everyone else.
Yeah. Wow. So, where did you get your business acumen from?
I just studied it. I've never been a good student in a traditional sense, and the reason for it is because as someone with ADHD, I operate at a pace that no one else can keep up with.
But the education system doesn't achieve its targets.
Exactly.
It's not
So
fit for service.
my whole philosophy was always always curious, always a sponge. So I would always read books, listen to podcasts, watch endless YouTube videos, and I would just study people's businesses and gain context.
So it's been quite a while. It's been like...
Nearly 2 decades since I started.
So I know it's hard out of 2 decades to pull a few names, but give me some of the fundamental influences on you, the names of the people who have informed your acumen, your abilities, the way you think.
Yeah. There were some clients, I obviously can't name them because for privacy reasons, but there were some clients that gave me a chance.
Yeah.
And they had really great businesses and just knew I had the tenacity to solve problems. So there's a particular client that I worked with for many years who had this advertising agency. And it was a really interesting business because his clients were FMCG businesses, so fast-moving consumer goods, and they're all publicly listed. And he was doing market research for new products that they were bringing to market. And the thing about his business model is that he had to get these market researchers who were highly paid, salaried employees in his business, but his payment terms were 90-day net terms from these publicly listed FMCGs.
Yeah.
Huge. So it meant that he would have all of this fixed cost that he'd pay up front, plus the costs on the variable of bringing in people to do the market research, right? And then he's got net 90-day terms to get paid. So, and he cracked this code, he built a great reputation, and then all of a sudden he was experiencing this tremendous growth. Like, all of these clients were coming out of the woodworks and signing up. And he comes to me one day and he said, "Jax, I'm on the verge of going broke. I don't know how I'm going to make payroll next week." And I'm like, "This is peculiar. You've got an amazing business." So I started just crunching the numbers and learning how to build financial models. And I discovered this concept called the cash flow story. They're like, okay, how does money transfer from the profit and loss onto the balance sheet, onto the cash flow statement? Now, what I realized is that he had money going out basically 3 times faster than it was coming in, meaning that the faster he grew, the faster he was going broke. So we went through a full restructure, and I basically said to him, "Hey, look, we need to lay off these 5 people because otherwise you're going to be insolvent. Your business is going to go broke and you'll have nothing, right? So I know it's tough. We've got to get rid of these people. Let's consolidate. And then we need to renegotiate the payment terms." So I read a book by a guy called John Warrilow that's called The Automatic Customer. And the whole idea is about different pricing models. So
Subscription models.
Yep. So what we worked out is these FMCGs had these pricing strategies that we just taken for gospel, right? They're like with 90-day net terms. Okay, well, who decided that? So what we did is we created these pricing strategies that was called the advanced and the easy pricing. So what we did is we said, well, they're actually using you as an interest-free bank. So what we're now going to do is we're going to create a tiered pricing.
Yep.
Advanced, if they pay upfront and in full, they get a 10% discount. And in fact, that was actually what we were already charging.
Yeah.
Right?
They pay 10% more if they want some credit.
And we're like, and the easy, if they want 90-day plus terms, they need to pay a 10% premium.
Yep.
But they've got to pay 50% upfront.
Yep.
And what we worked out is that was what his fixed cost was. So it meant
so he had now had breathing space.
Correct.
He could afford to service every client he got.
100%. So it just occurred to me, I'm like, these are just basic financial skills. No, they're not basic, they are complicated, but they're fundamental financial skills that business owners aren't taught. And this is what's locking up wealth in their business and is preventing them from creating wealth outside of their business and being financially free.
You know what I'm distilling down from this is not who your influences were, which is what I wanted, but it's more that your ability to use logic and causality and see the difference between things that are just linked and things that cause, and then your ability to problem solve.
Yes.
And putting these two things together is like a formula that you run by. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know where I picked it up from. Like, my old man was a very well-read and smart person. And I suspect that his mental models rubbed off on me, just his way of thinking rubbed off on me. And it was not until much later on that I discovered Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. And Charlie Munger talked about all of his success come from mastering mental models.
Yeah.
And I attribute all of my success to that, of not only mastering, like building and mastering mental models, but actually distilling those so I could teach others.
Yeah.
Because what I found is really challenging is that transfer of tacit knowledge and experience.
Yeah.
That a lot of really smart people say, like, this is how I think about something, but they can't really describe it.
Yeah. Yeah. They can't break it down.
Exactly.
And,
And I've had to take things and to be able to distill them so non-financial people can understand them.
Yeah.
And then use that to make their own decisions.
Isn't it kind of sick how people in business are not expected to be able to understand their own numbers?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Look, that was an amazing introduction. I think I'd like to have a quick look at my questions and see if there's anything in here so far that we've missed. Oh, here's one. This is unanswerable, I think, but I'm going to ask you anyway. What gross margin should a 7-figure business be running, service versus? Yeah.
This is a really great question, because this is also where I see a lot of businesses get tripped up.
Yeah.
Is that gross margin is almost an arbitrary term, because there's not a set definition of it.
Yep.
And I see P&Ls get destroyed all of the time because the assumptions are made wrong.
Right.
So let's break down a P&L first, and let's get the terminology right. First piece of terminology is top line revenue.
Yep.
Right? So this is essentially the income that you receive into your business. Next is cost of sales.
Yep.
And this is where things go awry. Cost of sales is only two things. It is your materials. So if you have inventory, you've got stock on hand, or you've got to buy materials in order to deliver your product or service, and it's your subcontractors.
Yep.
So people that you pay a variable cost in order to deliver a part of your product or service. Yep. So let's put that into context. If you're a builder, your materials are the wood and the nails and all of those things. And your subcontractors is the carpenter that you bring in that does the walls, right? Does all of the framing, right? The tiler that you get to do the bathroom. Those are subcontractors. The mistake I see is that a lot of businesses put their delivery employees under a cost of sale. So let's say in that same instance, let's say they've got a salaried builder in their construction business, they put them as a cost of sale. And the rationale...
Whereas that's a continuing expense.
It's a fixed expense, right?
No matter what, yeah.
And the argument that I have with accountants all of the time is that they say, well, but they're only there because they're there to produce revenue. But on the flip side is, but they get paid irrespective of whether the business produces $1 of revenue or not.
Yeah, they're not actually. They're there to deliver the product.
Correct.
So,
and it's a fixed in nature because the risk is on the business owner.
Yeah.
Right? It makes sense. So then that determines your gross profit. So as a general rule of thumb, and the only other consideration there is paid advertising expense and commissions that you pay. So in my business, the vast majority of our clients are acquired by paid advertising. We put our paid advertising as a cost of sale because we increase the spend, revenue goes up, right? Yep. And then also our sales commissions, we pay a commission to our sales team, their commission rate goes in there because it's a variable expense. Because the idea of a cost of sale is that your cost of sales and your revenue should be directly related.
Yes.
Right? Your cost of sales is usually a percentage of your top line revenue.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah.
So then that leaves us with gross profit. So as a general rule of thumb for our clients, the target gross profit percentage is usually 70 to 80%. Obviously, the higher the better. In some industries, like for some clients of ours who are in health, like allied health, their cost of sales is 5%, so their gross profit's 95%, right? Potentially even higher.
But high fixed costs.
Exactly, higher fixed costs. So on the other side of things, obviously trade businesses will usually have a higher cost of sale and obviously a lower gross margin. So the most important thing to consider is what is your cost of sales for your financial model, and then what's your operating expenses to ensure that you can hit the net profit target that you need to achieve your goals. And obviously some clients they've got a business that can only do a 10% profit margin. Some can do a 40% profit margin.
So are there industries that are better for net profit margins than others?
There are definitely models that are easier,
Yeah.
but there's not necessarily better. And the reason for it is because every business has trade-offs. There's pros and cons. And the thing I often see, like we have clients come to us all the time, like great example is builders. Builders, generally, you'll run a phenomenal building business if you can do a 10% net profit margin.
Yeah.
I've got building clients that do 30% net profit margins. And they come to us saying like, oh, if I can get to 10%, great. And it's just because the average or the benchmark is 10% does not mean we can't pull financial levers that can get you to a 20 or a 30%.
Yeah. Clear thinking and fiddling.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that answers that for me. Is there a common pattern where revenue grows but margin shrinks at this between, 5 and 10 million?
Yeah, it actually usually happens before. And I usually start to see it at 1 to 3 million.
Okay.
Some businesses it takes to get to about 5, and we call this the scale tax.
Right.
So what inevitably happens is that businesses at $1 million and below are a lifestyle business. They have less operational infrastructure. There's usually more key person involvement. So therefore, there's additional margin that comes as a result. But once you get over $1 million, you start getting to 3, getting to 5. Depending on the industry, things start to shift. There's more operational complexity. There's usually a layer of middle management. That we outgrow systems, and the owner needs to transition from being a technician of working in the business to then working on the business and leading it forwards. And because of all of this chaos, it starts to consume margin.
Right.
And what we also see is that the owners are working more hours than they ever did, earning less than they ever did.
In what capacity are they working there?
Well, they're wearing multiple hats. Usually they're still holding on to some hat of delivery, whether it be that they're on the tools a couple of days a week, or they're at least supervising, right? They're still getting all of the phone calls, so their phone is just ringing off the hook.
So they're still working on sales?
Yeah, like customers are calling them, sales are coming into them, so they're usually still quoting or doing proposals and that kind of thing. That all roads lead back to them. And the reason is because they don't have systems, or they don't have the right systems to scale.
Yeah.
And what they end up doing is they start throwing people at their problems. But the challenge is they can't afford to hire the superstars that already know how to do the job. So they end up having to get people who are less experienced or less values aligned.
And is that where they think, oh, I can train them?
Correct.
I can.
But they don't have the time.
No.
So this just becomes this situation where we see so many business owners burn out at this phase, and they start to fall out of love with their business. They start saying, I need to sell this bloody thing, but nobody wants to buy that. It's worthless.
Well, it all depends on them.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
it's their thing,
correct.
their job.
100%. So the decision that we say to them is you either need to shrink back down and go back to lifestyle business land, or you need to scale up and implement structure and systems.
Yeah. All right. So what do people expect? So someone said, I've got a great idea for business. I've got the capital start. I get going and bam, the market is there. Yeah. They're buying. I can deliver. Joy, joy, joy in the early months and years. And then what do they expect will happen as they hit that 1, 3, 5?
Yeah, the big number that I see for most of these people is they want to be earning more than $400,000 a year.
Personally. Okay.
And to put that in perspective, like if we're looking at, let's say, across all of our clients, once they start implementing our systems, on average they do 20% plus profit, right? And that's after they've taken a market salary as well. Okay, so that the goal is they should get 2 paychecks.
Yeah.
So that means that to get to 400, you've got to have a $2 million a year business doing 20%.
Okay.
Right? Interestingly, when these people come to us, they're not making any profit or very little profit, like sub 10%.
Yeah.
So in many cases, their income extraction is maybe 30 or 40% of what they're working towards. Like they might be making...
And that's on top of a salary?
Yeah, in many cases, they're not even taking a market salary at the moment. So their goal is 400 grand. They might be making 150, doing 60 to 80 hours a week, no holidays, like burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah.
And like, of course, everyone would question, why the hell am I doing this, right? So the big thing for us is just how do we implement the right structure that allows them to start getting that second paycheck from profit, and they can start seeing the light.
So I don't know if this is relevant, but from the outside, people looking at that business, the family, the wife, the kids, even the key personnel
Yes.
who want to spend this money, they want to spend this 400K or whatever it is.
Yeah.
What are they seeing? What are they expecting it to be like?
There's multiple perspectives. So there's the employees. The employees think that the owner's rolling in it, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't understand that revenue is not profit, right?
Yeah.
So they're like, oh yeah, like this is a multi-million-dollar business. He's killing it.
Yeah.
And even I felt that, like, back working for people, because no one taught me the economics of the business, right? And then from the
I guess I'm naive. Just if the business owner doesn't understand his figures, why on earth would anyone else?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there's actually a great book by a guy called Jack Stack that's called The Great Game of Business. And his whole philosophy is like, your team are already assuming your financial position, and they're usually overinflating it using their imagination. You may as well tell them the truth.
Yeah.
Because if you tell them the truth, either it's like, hey, the business is doing really shit, then it's kind of partly your fault. Let's pull our act together, right? Let's rally together to sort this. And usually, for lack of a better term, the rats flee the ship, right?
Yep.
Because you get rid of the wrong people.
Good.
And then
Or you get rid of the right people.
Yeah, and then if the business is doing really well, then we create a system that we share in the value that's created, right? Through profit share and bonus and things like that. So that's the kind of philosophy. But that doesn't exist usually. They just think the owner's swimming in it. And the significant other, which usually these are usually male-run businesses, so the wife is losing her patience of constantly deferring gratification.
And my husband's not there, and he's busy, and he's worried.
Not there. I'm raising the kids. We're not living the lifestyle that we want. We're not living in the house that we want. We've got all of this debt, and then all of the money goes back into business.
Yeah.
And like, it's almost as if the business is the favourite child.
Yeah. Or the spouse, even.
Yeah. And it comes to a head, right? Like there's a crossroads, and there's many relationships that have been destroyed as a result of this. Yeah. Interestingly, from our client base, like the partners are always super supportive.
Yeah.
They're losing patience, which is why they've probably pushed their partner to come and work with us.
Yeah.
Because they're just like, hey, we've got to make this work, or something's got to give.
Yeah.
And it's also super liberating to see once we start implementing the systems and the results start flowing, of that trust returning and that faith in the fact that the business is actually the vehicle that gets them where they want to go.
Does this create, because humans, good human, like to meet expectations of others, does it create some emotional problems or identity problems in terms of all I should be?
Yeah.
And I've made it look like, and there is also some degree of soldier on, and whatever. Do people get caught up in that? Does it make it hard to reach out and ask for help?
It's not often spoken about, but I can see it.
Yeah.
So the owner of the business usually feels guilty and ashamed because they believe, or they still do believe, that they're doing the right thing. Yeah. They just don't know how. And they've tried and they've tried and they've tried, and they still haven't been able to get to where they want to go. And it does create a bit of a strange power dynamic, but it's usually unspoken. Like usually the fights that they're having fights about aren't the real fights. You know what I mean? Very rarely do I hear that they have arguments about the business.
Yes.
It's always about,
the consequences.
The consequences. You know what I mean? So I guess the great thing is once we address the root cause, then we can start moving forwards. Yeah.
Wow, I never thought they would be feeling guilty and, what was the other one? Guilty and
ashamed.
Ashamed, yeah.
And even like the conversations I've had with a lot of clients of the things that the kids start saying, of like, oh, like Dad, like you're never around, you don't come to our sports games, or like, why aren't you
why
there
can't I
in
have
school
a pony?
holidays? Yeah, why can't I have a pony? And they carry that. And it's a huge weight to carry, particularly considering that all other roads in their business lead back to them, and then obviously the burden that they carry around their family. It's a tremendous weight.
It actually resonates with me. When I was a child, my father had a very successful business. He was a financial advisor. And he drove a Jaguar, and we had a beautiful house. But he felt, to me as a child, miserly. Every dollar seemed to be important. And there didn't seem to be this flush that he seemed to have.
Sure.
Because he spent all his money on business. Didn't seem to translate into the family. And so I'm seeing that from a different perspective now, which is quite interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's interesting that across our clients, like when we talk to them about their goals, almost always it's about how do I provide more for my family?
Yeah.
And that creates another whole set of issues of like just because you didn't have it doesn't mean you should spoil your kids, and then you end up ruining wealth for them because they kind of expect it and turn into brats. I've written a whole book about that. It's interesting.
Yeah.
We trade poor problems for rich problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
But once you've got rich problems, at least you can afford to fix them.
Yes. Yes. At least you're drinking champagne while you do.
100%.
All right. What are the cost categories that most often outpace revenue as businesses grow?
Always wages.
Wages.
It is always wages.
Yeah.
So the benchmark that I use for a business, and once again, it varies from business to business, but optimally we should be making sure that wages do not exceed 30% top line revenue. And that includes owners' wages, right?
Yep.
Because when we think about it, I like to think about the rule of a thirds, right? We have a third that goes to the operating expenses of the business. We have a third that goes to wages and staff, and then we've got a third that's left over for profit, right? So anytime those slices of the pie...
So operating expenses includes the cost of goods sales and the fixed...
Yeah, any other fixed costs, like rent and utilities and all of those other bits and bobs. So if you think about those as slices of a pie, anytime you start to change those proportions, it's always going to come out of profit, right? So let's boil this down, right? Let's assume that you've got a business that has 50% wages, which I've seen on many occasions, and then you've got 40% of your cost of sales and your other fixed expenses. Well, yeah, you're only going to have 10% profit, right?
Yeah.
So because what we've got to realise is profit is called the bottom line for a reason, because it is what is left.
Yeah.
And our whole philosophy is about how do we presuppose profit? How do we set a profit target first and then re-engineer the financial model that ensures that that profit target can be achieved?
Which is the financial equivalent of your value system, which is how do you want to feel? What will make you feel that way? What do you have to set up?
Bingo.
What does your business have to do to give you that?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Because the whole idea is if we start with the end in mind, it's so much easier to reverse engineer, as opposed to most people who just go, okay, like I want to achieve this, and then I'll see what happens after that, and just kind of play it by ear. It's just when you start from where you are, the opportunities and pathways are endless. Whereas when you start from where you want to go, then
it's clearer.
It's clearer to reverse engineer your path to where you are.
Yeah, and you don't end up with a 2% profit.
Exactly. And we see it so much. Like we had a guy actually come to us, had an electrical business that had done over 5 mil, and he lost $20,000 that year. And he goes, this is mental. Like I've got this amazing business, $5 million, and I'm $20,000 poorer as a result of this business.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's going to be what he can see. It's going to be a lot more in time and emotion
100%.
and regret. And
100%.
Yeah.
So over the course of about 12 months of working with him, we continued to grow and scale the business. We increased the top line revenue by about 30%, and he did almost $1 million in profit.
Yeah.
So it was a massive turnaround, and it wasn't anything fundamentally different of how he was running his business. It was just the financial model.
Yeah.
And the big thing is, as we grow and scale that business and endure the scale tax, the easiest thing to do is to throw people at it. And it is the most expensive thing to do, because just throwing people at the problem itself doesn't solve it.
Yeah.
If those people are inefficient and underutilized.
Yeah. Or if the systems that they're supposedly working in are broken.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. It makes me wonder how many businesses out there in this bracket are in trouble. What do you think? I mean, I know that's something no one knows. Well, maybe the ATO knows, but what do you reckon?
There's a lot. Like if we look at the ATO at the moment, there are trillions of dollars in uncollected taxes.
Yeah.
We saw in October 2025, the insolvency rates for Australian small businesses peaked to the highest level in recorded history.
What were they?
I don't know the exact number, but it was the highest in recorded history. So if that's not a symptom for the issue, and just from our micro perspective, we look at thousands of businesses, and we see their financials, and I would probably say that 80% of the businesses that come to us are under-optimized in terms of their financial position and enduring some kind of financial hardship.
Yeah.
So it's the vast majority.
What's the biggest mistake people make when they feel that, when they get that pinch?
I think the biggest issue is they wait too long to fix it. Like the common thing that I hear across the board is like, I wish I did this 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think it is an ego thing, right? You get into business because you want to be the master of your own destiny. So when you get into the shit, you go, oh, I can get out of this. And it feels good, like when you get yourself out of the shit yourself. But if you get yourself out, and how much idiot tax do you have to pay along the way? Because you're inevitably going to make mistakes, right?
Yeah, obviously.
I've made countless mistakes, but I've got to a point whereby I am happy to pay for people who've already paid the idiot tax before and can teach me the shortcuts. Because these people are smart, they're resourceful, they're most likely going to be able to work it out, but how long is it going to take? And what's the opportunity cost?
Yeah.
And this is the most interesting thing that I've found working with more affluent people who've got bigger businesses, is the number one skill is that they are prepared to pay to solve their problems faster. Like speed is the currency of the game. And they're happy to throw money at their problems to make them go away.
Because the revenue's coming in to do it.
Correct. And they realise, like, look at that situation with that electrical business. If we implemented that strategy and were able to go from negative profit to almost $1 million in profit in 12 months, if he'd done that 5 years sooner, that's potentially an extra $5 million of profit that he could have produced.
Plus the growth.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just like, well, okay, am I prepared to spend 50 grand to get help and solve these problems to make 5 million? Like, it's a pretty no-brainer decision.
So when do people need to go, I need help?
Well, there's really three positions.
Yep.
So position number one is that you're already doing well. And the question is, well, could you be doing better, right? Make hay while the sun shines. Because the challenging thing that we see is in business, you are best to say, go borrow money and build wealth when times are doing really well, because as soon as you aren't doing well, the banks don't want to borrow of you, right? So when you're doing well, how do we optimize? And then how do we de-risk from the punches that you don't see coming? You don't even know. The second position is when you're kind of treading water. You're like, oh, this is okay. Like, I'm comfortable, but I'm not crushing it.
Yeah.
And the great thing is you've already proven a baseline. So now it's just about optimizing to get you up to that crushing it position. And then the third position is that you're drowning, right? Like the business is taking water. You're accruing tax debt. You're struggling with cash flow. You feel like you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. Then something needs to give.
Situation 3, I can imagine people going, yeah, I need help.
Sure.
Situation 2, yep, because you can justify it in terms of it would be a smart thing to improve.
Yes.
And now I've set this up, it's working quite well, I'll just go and buy some more intelligence. But when I look at the first one, I can't see people overcoming their ego.
It's hard
to put their hands up.
It's funny. I had a scenario of this client who actually contacted me off TikTok of all places, right? And this guy's a really smart guy.
I'm sorry, the only thing I know about TikTok is twerking.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what everyone said to me for years. But this guy was running a $30+ million auto parts business, global business, had owned the entire vertically aligned supply chain. It was just a beautiful model. And he saw one of my videos and he reached out to me and he goes, hey, I just want to get a second opinion. And he was very discreet, very aloof. And so I caught up with him, and these types of people are usually like arms crossed, sitting backwards, just looking at you like as if to think like sell yourself to me.
Yeah.
And then I will decide if this is a good enough idea for me to move forward. So I'm like, all right, cool. So the interesting thing was that when we started breaking down his different businesses, he had one single entity but he had all of these business divisions all within one. And inevitably what happens is one division is leaning on another.
Yes.
So our general rule is we actually restructure that every business division has its own company, assuming there's enough scale.
Yep.
Or we have at least a management reporting system to isolate everything.
Each needs to be a profit center.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so when we actually went through this process and started stripping everything out, I showed him that there were two divisions that were losing significant amounts of money and were being propped up by all of the others. And he goes, oh shit, I didn't know. So we went through a process of actually restructuring the whole company. We set up a holding company. We set up all of the different trading companies. We set up a financial reporting system, a shared cost system, and we were able to drastically improve the profitability of the group and the business value of the entire group. And so the interesting thing is there is always something that can be improved.
Yeah.
Right? So it's the ego is the enemy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but they're there.
100%.
And yes, I agree, ego is the enemy, but it's also part of what allows someone to go, I can build a business.
Sure.
I'm going to do it. I can try, and to weather the slings and arrows of those who don't believe and the problems.
Yeah, I just, even from my own perspective, like we've built now a $25 million business, and I have reserved to the fact that I'm a lifelong student. Like, I don't have an ego. Like, I know what I know, but I'm always open-minded, and I'm always looking for fresh perspectives. I'm always looking to improve. I'm always looking for new mentors and people to give me different perspectives. Like, I was even fortunate enough this week, there was a colleague of mine who has recently been put on the AFR Young Rich list. He's been very successful in his business. He had a partial liquidity event. His net worth is over $100 million. He's built a $350 million business now, mid-30s. Right? And I reached out to him and I'm like, hey, dude, I'm super happy for your success. Can I pay for your time? Because I'd love to pick your brain and just ask you some questions. And it was the best investment of my time that I could have ever had. And even by the end of it, he said, Jackson, like, I've got more money than I know what to do with. Why am I going to take yours? And I didn't even charge me for it. So it's just having the courage and also the curiosity to want to see, is there a better way? And I think that's something that all business owners need to ask. Challenge the status quo. What if the opposite were true?
Yeah.
Like, you might have the best business in the world, but what if you don't?
So this ego aspect, I wonder if there's another way to position the ego that then includes I'm big enough to learn, I'm big enough or strong enough or whatever the quality is to look for and take on board what other people have done, just like you've described, and a way to bring that out in, I guess, you know where I'm coming from. It just sounds like there's loads of people out there who are in pain, who are frustrated, who have worked their guts out to build something brilliant.
Yes.
And if their ego is stopping them from making it sustainable, then it would be great if that could be changed.
Well, the great thing about that is that numbers don't lie.
Yes.
And the challenge is for most people is that they're looking at these decisions subjectively, and they're looking at it through rose-tinted glasses to be able to justify their action or inaction. And if you just know your core numbers, right? So the first number is like, okay, what is my compound annual growth rate? So in other words, what is the growth rate of my top line revenue? So if I'm $1 million this year, am I 1.2 million next year? Like, the goal should be as a business owner is you should be growing your business between 10 and 30% per year. Right. Because if you can do that sustainably over a career, you can build an incredible business, right? I think the statistic was that on average, Australian businesses grow like less than 3%. So like they don't even keep up with inflation. You know what I mean?
I was wondering about that. Yeah.
So that's a big issue. So our goal should be 10% because like the way I look at it is, unless your business is growing by 10%, then
it's not growing.
It's not really growing, and there's better alternatives for you to build wealth, being property and shares. Yeah. So our goal is to help our clients grow 20 to 30% year on year. So that's our first thing. So if you're not doing that, there's something wrong. 2 is your gross profit margin. So what's your compound annual growth profit margin? Yes. So if your top line revenue is growing by 30%, but your gross profit is only growing 10%, that means that your cost of sales is creeping. Yeah. So that's a problem. Yeah. Then there's your operating expense growth rate. So similar story. And then that determines your net profit. Then we need to look at the balance sheet. Well, okay, do you have 3 to 6 months of cash to expenses? All right, and if you don't, that's a problem.
Yes.
And then are you paying yourself at least $400,000 a year from your business? If you're not, that's a problem. And do you have at least a 20% surplus in your household? And are you committing that to either pay down debt or build wealth? And if you don't, then that's a problem.
Yeah.
So those are the common things, right? Like if you answered no to any of those things, then that's where you need to go looking for a solution.
Yep.
And if you're meeting or exceeding those things, then say, okay, well, am I happy with that, or could I make this boat go faster?
Is bigger always better though?
I think it is, as long as you've got the infrastructure. So like, for example, for me, I've got a $25 million business, I've got 60 staff, and I work 3 days a week. And I only do the work that I enjoy. I do this kind of thing, doing content. I coach and mentor my leadership team. I focus on strategy. I focus on acquisitions. These are the things that I enjoy. And I can outsource all of the functions, or what I call the shit jobs, that I'm not good at doing, that I don't enjoy doing. Could I do that?
But someone else is very happy to be paid to do.
100%.
Yeah.
So from my perspective, it's like I look at the triple bottom line. 1, having a bigger business allows me to help more people, right? 2, having a bigger business allows me to employ more people and help them create financial freedom. And 3, having a bigger business allows me to manufacture more wealth and to buy back my time. So for me, a bigger business is always better.
Yep, beautiful. All right, I'm going to wrap up, but I'm going to wrap up with another game. All right, are you ready?
Let me pick, I bet I pick the same one again. Blank.
It has slipped off. All right. What's the craziest, we've always done it this way, that you've heard in business?
Yeah. Geez, there's a lot.
I thought there might be.
The interesting one that's actually come up a lot recently is businesses who pay their payroll weekly. And like, you might not think that's a big deal, but when you actually boil it down, there are certain months that have 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So that means you have 20% more wages expense in those months than other months. And given that most businesses do less than 10% profit, that now means that they make a 10% loss, or potentially even more in those months.
As in the cost of paying the
Correct.
payroll.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
It now has 4x'd your finance function, because compared to doing payroll on a monthly basis. So that means that there's 4 times more work. There is 4 times more chance for errors. And you need to have 4 times more capability in your finance function in your business in order to just process that.
Right.
So interestingly, with a client of ours, like, we've always done it this way. We've always paid weekly. Like, okay, well, how hard do you think it would be for us to tell your team that we're going to change it to fortnightly, but it's going to be 2 weeks in advance? So there's nothing that they lose as a result.
Yeah.
All right, cool. And then next year, we're going to go to monthly.
Yeah.
And it allows us to basically cut the finance department that he's got into a quarter, and fundamentally change his cash flow.
How'd it go?
Yeah, great. Well, he's rolling it out now.
Yeah,
So
fantastic.
it's just because it was constantly complaining of like, these 5-week months destroy my profit. And it works out over a year.
Yeah.
But it's such a small little change.
But it doesn't, because you're handling it twice as often.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So pretty funny.
All right. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.